When those opportunities keep presenting themselves and those things keep circling back around, you should pay attention to those universal cues.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I appreciate you being here. And don't forget to connect with me on social media. Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn are at Sharing Passion and Purpose, and Twitter is at Passion Sharing. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time. Hi, everybody. In this episode, you'll hear from Laura Blair, founder of Blair Hollow Candle Company, and the story about how her business that started by accident created an intentional product that even some celebrities can't get enough of. And side note, you'll hear more about how those candles landed in the hands of those celebrities. Laura's luxe candles have grown in popularity thanks in large part to the non-toxic characteristics and thoughtfully sourced ingredients and components that she uses to make every single candle. Her artistic creations are truly incredible, from the fragrances to the vessels that hold the candle. You'll be amazed with what goes into every single candle, including the science behind it. And you're going to learn a little bit more about her background that isn't science, it's finance. And she's even gone into another career in the tech field and owns her own consulting business. So as you can tell, Laura is multi-talented and just truly an incredible creative. So I can't wait for you to hear this conversation with Laura Blair. Before we get started, I just wanted to remind you that Conversations with Passion and Purpose, my live podcast event coming up, is actually sold out on November 8th with Carissa Miller. But my next one is January 31st, and I'm going to be announcing that guest at this next event. So mark your calendars for January 31st if you're in the Tulsa area. It's a lunch. It's from 11:30 to 1 o'clock, and there will be more details to come. So check my Instagram, and also if you're not on my email list, please go to sharingpassionandpurpose.com and join my email list, because that is the best way to learn about upcoming events, guests, and just be in the know about what's going on. So please join my email list, and I hope to see you soon at one of the events, because it really is a good time to connect, learn, and grow with an amazing group of women in the Tulsa metro area. Now, on to this week's episode. Okay, Laura, I am so happy to have you here on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. It's glad to be here.
This is a lot of fun because we have recently reconnected, and we knew each other in college, which was eons ago.
Long time, very long time.
Yes, and actually got reconnected through social media. We live probably a mile apart.
Yeah.
You've walked over here.
I walked over here. I think it was exactly a mile.
Okay. See, and so close. And you are doing something really cool, and I can't wait to share it with others. But you have started a candle company, actually curated handmade candle business.
I have. Kind of accidentally, but yes, I have.
So tell us about that. It's Blair Hollow Candle Company.
Blair Hollow Candle Company.
Which I love that name.
Thank you.
So Laura Blair.
Yes.
So tell us, when you say you started accidentally, kind of tell us about how you start a whole business accidentally.
That is such a great question. I think my husband asks me that question a lot these days too. How did we do this on accident? This really started as a hobby, right? It started as a hobby. I don't know that I ever had business intentions with it. The hobby started because I've always had sensitivities to candles. Asthma sensitivities, headache sensitivities, even sometimes skin sensitivities if I would be around something highly fragranced. And then every now and then I would notice that I'd be around something fragranced that didn't cause me a sensitivity, and my curious mind just went to work. why did this one cause me a problem and that one not cause me a problem? And so probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago, I just went down a rabbit hole of research. Like, what's in a candle? What are they made with? Oh, there's different waxes. You mean there's different ingredients in oils? And I just started hobby trying to make a decent candle, which surprisingly was more difficult than I expected. I just thought you mixed wax and you stirred something in and gave it a wick, and ta-da, you had a beautiful candle. There's a little more to it than that.
Well, that's what I've thought. I don't know if I've shared with you, but I have actually made candles before.
I don't think we talked about that.
Okay. No. I don't know. Yeah, I didn't know if I shared that with you. Mm-hmm. So I like to explore my creative side and thought it would be easy, and it is a lot harder than what I thought. I thought, I just bought wax, and then I bought the essential oil, and then I bought wicks. This was all at Hobby Lobby, which is not the cleanest.
No.
Not at all.
It's not.
But I thought, it would be easy, and I ended up, it dipped way down where the wick was.
It tunneled.
Okay. It tunneled. And so I have tried different things to make candles, and it is not easy to do it.
The first one that I made lit up like a blowtorch. I thought I was going to burn the house down.
You have fancy wicks, though.
I do today.
Okay.
I have gone through probably 100 different types of wicks.
Okay.
And interestingly, not every candle I make has the exact same wick configuration in it.
Okay.
Different waxes burn differently. Different oils burn differently. To the naked eye, it probably looks the same, but I can look at my candles and tell you one of them has a 0.02 thickness to the wood wick. One has a 0.03 thickness. One is 3/4 of an inch wide. One is 1/2 an inch wide, because they all burn a little differently.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I'm glad you're saying they burn, because the stuff that they are burning is not toxic. So
that's right.
That's the big deal with me. They are so fragrant. They are absolutely lovely, but I am more concerned right now, for me personally, about just releasing chemicals into the air, into my home where I'm living.
Same.
And yours are phenomenal. And so when you were talking about your sensitivity and, producing the candles, so how did it go from the hobby to the business? Because you have a full-time job.
I do. I'm a business owner of a consulting firm.
Yes.
So I do have a full-time job. When this went hobby to business, there were so many trials and errors in making a decent candle that I accumulated supplies and equipment that just kept kind of taking over a room of our house. I remember there was a day my husband walked in watching me make something, and he said, "So what's going on in here? Have we started a business?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "This has taken over a whole room of our house. That looks like a business to me." I'm thinking, oh, well, I don't know about that. But I think the thing that really tipped it into business was in 2020, actually, with all the world events that were going on at that time, and the quarantines and lockdown. And really what I do for my day job had kind of come to a standstill. We were stuck at home. I was filling my time making candles and started gifting them to friends. We would drive around and I would make porch drops for people, just trying to do something nice for people. And friends of mine started calling and asking if they could place orders. And I'm like, oh, that was a gift, right? This is a hobby. Like, I'm not a business. Well, you should be, because we love this candle and I'd like to order a dozen of those for this, and I'm like, well, my day job's kind of at a standstill. I guess I could do that for a little while. And it took off so much in the first half of 2020. I would make candles and put together orders all week long. And on Saturdays, my husband and I would put a playlist on the car, and we would drive all over the Tulsa metro area doing porch chops of candle orders. We felt like Santa Claus every single Saturday.
My gosh.
For most of 2020. He lost his job in 2020. My consulting practice nearly came to a standstill, and we totally took care of all of our family's financial needs doing that.
Wow.
And it was like, oh, maybe there's a business here, like a real business, not just a hobby business.
Yes.
So anyway, that's what kind of tipped it.
Okay. So you saw, it's so awesome that you love creating and love and we'll talk later about the fragrances and all of that. But it's awesome that you love to do this and that people were asking. So it's like there was a need for these clean candles and these amazing smelling clean candles.
Yeah.
And actually so much so, I'm wondering if you want to share about the candle being part of some fabulous gift baskets.
Oh.
And maybe I think this is the coolest story because it's not often that you have really superstars, like iconic people who are coming back again and again and asking about your candles.
That was really a fun thing. And I can't really take credit for how that came about. I have a dear friend here in town who is a business owner, and she's plugged into a lot of what goes on with some of the film industry things happening here in town. And a couple of years ago, when the cast and crew for Killer of the Flower Moon came to Tulsa area, right, to start filming, she was asked to put together gift baskets for the cast and crew featuring local businesses, locally made products. And she came to me and asked me if I would make a special candle as part of the gift baskets. So I set out designing a custom oil blend that focused on a lot of herbal elements that are kind of traditional spiritual herbs in indigenous ceremonies and things like that. So I used sage oils and palo santos and, a blend of things that I thought had a nice nod to that. And we named the fragrance Flower Moon and put together a candle that went into all the gift baskets. So if you've seen that movie and you know the star power that's in that movie, all of them got a Flower Moon candle, which was really exciting. But I think when it became really fun is when some of them came back and started ordering from me. And I got to send candles for quite some time to New York, to Hollywood, to Los Angeles, people walking red carpets that were coming back and ordering those candles. And I just had a major fangirl moment. I mean, I'm having a fangirl moment now talking about it, but it was really exciting. So
see, I think it's unbelievable.
I know.
Unbelievable.
I just couldn't believe it, really.
Yeah. A product that you created here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, to going, across the nation and being a part of these people's lives that they loved them. They love them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought, you can't make this stuff up,
Well, and again, don't you feel like that's the universe kind of pushing you toward creating more and getting out there more?
Yeah, I do. And there have been so many moments, really over the last 4 years in particular, where those pushes have kept coming up and been so obvious. And yet I've resisted taking the great big step into whatever's next for the brand for probably a while. And we're, you and I have talked about that as well, kind of what might be next for us. But yeah, I think when those opportunities keep presenting themselves and those things keep circling back around, you should pay attention to those, right? Those universal cues.
Okay, I'm glad that you're saying that because it is fearful taking the next step. I mean, there is truth in what you're seeing, but it's also in your mind just hard to take that next step. So how have you at this point taken the next step? And I don't know at the end if you want to share your next, but you have gone from making them and having it, be where it's a porch pickup. Now you have a location where people are able to go and get your candles. So tell me about that. Tell me where you are with that and how you kind of pushed through the fear to get to even the point you are now.
Yeah, no, that's such a great question. Whenever we were the kind of the porch drop business there for most of 2020. And I think on the back side of that, I was left with, okay, what do we do now? Right? I've built a customer base. I have people who love and are interested in these. I can see that it can be a legitimate business. But what does that mean in terms of distribution going forward? Like today, I don't have a website, although that is something that's in development. But the reason I don't have one is because I wasn't quite sure we were ready to take that step, right? To really be paying attention to that level of fulfillment and things like that. So really distribution became a challenge. We did pop-ups for a while. I continued to do some porch drops. And then we had a few small businesses in town that started carrying candles for us for a while. And I'm really grateful to those business owners. I mean, one of those businesses is not around anymore, but Retro Den, Ashley and Ashley over at Retro Den, they were, the first ones to say, we want your candles in our store. A couple of businesses along Route 66, Mary Beth Babcock over at Buck Adams and William Franklin at Decapolis, both have carried our candles at time and given us a way to distribute. Most recently, we have a dedicated booth at the New Meadow Gold Mac, which if you haven't been there, you really should check that out if you're in the Tulsa area. It's such a neat shop. It's on historic Route 66 at 11th and Peoria, and it's a collective of local makers, of vintage little booths. Anyway, we have a dedicated spot in there. So for the first time ever, if somebody decided on a random, Tuesday at 3 p.m. that they needed a Blair Hollow candle, there is a place to go get one. We've been turning over the inventory pretty regularly over there and are about to go clear out the spooky collection that we've had up in October and start turning over for the holidays. Have some fun things planned there. And that's been really successful, having that dedicated spot. And, my friend who owns that kind of prodded me on that one. But yeah, that's been wonderful to have that and not rely on porch drops or, things like that. So,
well, and I understand logistics with distribution.
That's been it.
Yeah. But I do feel like you are at the next level to where, you're getting that figured out, because even at Meadow Mac, people have gone, I've gone, and things have been sold out.
I know.
And so, it's just in that much demand. So also, let's talk about the fragrances, because you are very thoughtful. I think people may have gotten a hint of that when you were talking about the candle that you curated for the movie that they got. But it's not just you're throwing lavender in, or something like that. You are really thoughtful in creating these candles. So you've had a spooky collection, but and if you want to kind of talk about that, you can, but I'm wanting to hear more about the fall and the holiday and what's coming up and kind of your thoughts behind how you're creating, because fragrances are a big thing to people, and obviously they're wildly popular.
It's so funny to watch people, especially at an in-person event. I do pop-ups around town, and to watch people smell things and see the reactions they have with them. People associate memories and people and experiences with smell, and you can put the exact same thing in front of 4 different people and you'll get completely different reactions, So I don't ever take that personally either, because everybody smells things differently and everybody has associations. But it is fun whenever somebody picks up a candle and they smell something in there that has a really positive or happy memory attached to it. And they're like, oh, that reminds me of my grandmother. That reminds me of this camping trip that I did with my favorite uncle every year, or something like that. That's always really rewarding to me. But you're right. You're not going to get just a plain single scented off the shelf kind of oil from me. I think part of the real rewarding part and fun part for me of the creating is the blending and the trying to create something very unique that you're just not going to find in an off the shelf brand. Because we focus on natural items, if it doesn't grow in nature, if it's not a spice, a plant, a wood, something like that, you're probably not going to find it in our candles. If you're looking for something manufactured kind of smell, it's not going to be clean for us, for what our standards are in the candles. So you're going to get very, I think, kind of complex, nuanced blends that have a lot of elements in them, and that often are inspired by some sort of memory or experience that I've had. Probably one that I think a lot of people don't know, which is a really top seller for us is our Mr. Bones candle, which I think you have one of those, right? You have
I
Mr.
love
Bones.
Mr. Bones.
People go crazy for Mr. Bones, and that's the one that kept selling out this fall, which I'm grateful for, but maybe I underplanned on how much inventory I should have made for that. But people love the glass, and it is a really fun kind of skull glass that is fun to burn this time of year. But I only do one fragrance in that, and there's a reason for that, and it's because I have an experience and a memory associated to Dia de los Muertos that inspired the fragrances that are in that candle. We spend a lot of time south of the border in Mexico, and we're down there one year during Dia de los Muertos and spent some time visiting around the cemetery areas and participating in a lot of the festivities that went on. I developed, I think, a new understanding and appreciation for what that celebration is, and smelt so many marigolds and other floral elements that are traditional in those celebrations, that's what inspired that scent. The primary fragrance in that candle is a marigold. There's some a little bit of tobacco, a little bit of kind of petrichor earth smell related to that, but that's why I only do that in one scent, and it's what inspired it, was that memory associated with visiting a country in an area where that holiday is heavily celebrated. So
how cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Now, I have seen, and we didn't talk about this, but I've seen on Instagram, it was either a photo or in a story where it looked like you were doing a ton of math.
Oh.
And I want you to talk about that, because we talked about the complexity. And when we were talking about candles, you were saying, you know, some of the brands even just maybe the top part of it has the fragrance, and then you burn down and you'll think you can't really smell it anymore. And you said because just the top part does. Yours has it all throughout, and the way that you measure it is down to a science. So each candle, is going to smell the same. So if I buy Mr. Bones, the next time I buy Mr. Bones, it will smell the same. It will have
same
that
formula.
Yes.
Yeah, it's funny. You know, when it comes to buying candles, anyone who buys them knows they come in a wide variety of price ranges, right? I can go to my big box store and get one for a few dollars. I might go to a specialty boutique and see one that's several $100s. I might see, it's like, why this range? I truly understand the range today. I understand why it happens, how it happens, and what some of the tricks are that people use to get things into certain price points. It really starts with wax. I mean, wax prices vary widely. You know, I'm committed to using a clean wax, but I want one that burns really well and burns pretty and throws scent nicely. And so I rely on coconut wax for that. I use a little bit of apricot seed wax to harden it a little bit, because coconut wax is pretty soft. But I find it's clean, it burns pretty, it throws scent well. It's not the cheapest wax out there, but that's what I've decided to build my product around. The most expensive part of a candle, though, is the oils. So getting clean, nice oils, of course, is more expensive than a manufactured imitation oil. The percentages that you use to scent that wax, like how much oil a wax can absorb, I load mine. You know, they're probably 10% of that candle is the oil, whereas I think kind of a big box store candle, you'll probably get 3 or 4%. And a trick they use to keep the price points down is they'll scent the wax that's on the top, but not the whole candle. And people tell me that all the time. They're like, I burned it, you know, the first day and it smelled great, and then I never smelled that candle again. And I'm thinking, well, there was no oil in the bottom 2/3 of that candle, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So we don't do any of that. So, you know, that's where the price points come from. But anyway, yeah, there's different tricks that are, I think, used to get things into different ranges. So quality of product, but how much of it you use as well. So we don't take any shortcuts with all that.
Okay, I'm glad to know that.
Yeah.
So I might ask too about your sense of smell, because you are developing these different blended fragrances, and I don't know if you have to, and this might just be a personal question, but are you in between mixing? Do you sniff coffee to clean your nose out? You know, I'm thinking, how do you, and some people have a better sense of taste, sense of smell, you know, different senses. I feel like yours is on point with your scent, your, you know, scent.
I hope so, because you guys are getting what I'm smelling, right? So I hope my sense of smell is on point. I can't develop multiple things at once, though.
Okay.
I have to focus on developing one scent blend at a time, and master that formula, document my formula. I can mix and do it after that because I have my formula, and I know there's 1 ounce of this in that per every 3 ounces of this wax. Like, I figure out my formula and I document that, and then I can produce it. And it doesn't matter if I've gone scent blind doing 4 things that day. But when I'm in the development phases, I've got to focus on one at a time. And I can only burn one thing in my house at the time, because you can go a little bit scent blind with it. I do, whenever I'm doing pop-ups, always have a little jar of coffee beans for people, though, to sniff if they are trying to pick a candle, because after about 3, you will kind of lose it. Anybody will. I don't care how good your sense of smell is. You'll kind of lose it after about 3. So we palate cleanse. That's candle sorbet right there.
Okay.
Is a little jar of coffee beans. So.
Okay. So do you have a favorite fragrance, a favorite scent that you are always burning that is your go-to?
That's kind of like asking me if I have a favorite child.
Okay.
but our core line that we carry all through the year, kind of the core scents that we originally developed, I have numbered. Okay. And they are number 1 through 8. And number 1 is number 1 for a reason. It probably is. That was the first one I ever developed, and I was developing the scent that I wanted in my house, because remember, this was a hobby. So that's what I was making, was my candle for me. So if you're a number 1 lover out there, just know that is the one I developed for me personally. It is very herbal. It's heavy on Palo Santo. It's got some sage. It's got some cedar wood. And the one that I developed for Flower Moon was inspired by that. I kind of went in a different direction with the formula, but it kind of started with that and evolved out of that. That's probably my favorite, and the one we burn in our house most often.
Okay. I love hearing this so much because Laura, I feel like in college, I'm going to say this. So weren't you a finance major?
Yes.
And I was accounting.
I know.
And we both have such creative sides, and you're really an artist with the candles. The candle making.
I like to think that I am.
There's such artistry in what you're doing.
I try to do that, right? I think it is a nice mental palate cleanser from the day work, which is more finance oriented, more high tech oriented. But I do have a strong creative side, and I think a lot of people probably don't know that about me. Or the people that do know that about me are shocked to figure out I have a day job that's so left-brained. Because I think I show up as 2 different people, depending on which side of my life you know me from. But yes, very artistic with the scents and very artistic with the design. I mean, I'm intentional about our vessel selection. You're not going to get cheap thin glass that's going to blow up for me. I don't do anything that's, overseas imported. I don't want that level of just resource use, I guess. I try to find things that are produced here in the United States and as close to Oklahoma as possible. But like, we work with a family-owned glass manufacturer out of Texas. Thick glass, nice glass. It might not be perfectly round if you look at it, because guess what? Somebody is hand forging those.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm super intentional about those things. And then, even our label designs and all that, which I can't take credit for that one. That is my husband, the silent partner in all this, but he has a graphic art and design background, and is an artist in his own right. So he probably couldn't make a candle. I don't think he'd want to make a candle, but he definitely makes me look good because he does all the logo and design work for me. So
such a great partnership.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally. I wouldn't be able to do this without him. He really is the unsung hero, and a lot of people don't realize there's a silent partner sitting behind me, but that man lifts a lot of 50-pound boxes of wax and hauls them around. He lifts a lot of heavy crates of glass, and he does a ton of design work for me to make sure everything goes out the door looking as good as it can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So cool. Okay. So what do you enjoy most about what you're doing with the candles and that business? What has been like a big, yay, aha, whatever?
I think
a
the
win.
thing, my husband and I have talked about this multiple times over the last few years, that I think the really wonderful surprise that came out of all this was the community connections that I built. Because when I started this little hobby, I had recently moved back to Tulsa after nearly 15 years away. And so while I had people I went to school with, like you, that I could have run into at the grocery store and go, oh, wait, I knew you, we won't say how many years ago, but long time ago, I really had lost a lot of those local connections, being gone for so long. So I felt like a newly arrived citizen here back in town. And the people that I met doing this so quickly plugged me back into the community, because Tulsa is a community that really supports locally owned business. At least that's been my experience. I think a very supportive community on that. So I met a ton of other makers and other creative people, business owners, customers who kept returning that became friends. And I think that was the big surprise and really fun win out of this that I never saw coming, was how deeply it would root me back into the community and how quickly it would get me feeling like a local citizen again,
I love that.
And I've really enjoyed that.
Oh, that's cool. I love that response. I feel the same with the podcast, that it's connected me more deeply with and
Totally.
with the community, and then even just building a whole different community that I didn't have before.
Exactly. I look at the people that I've met as a result of this, who are instrumental parts of my local relationships or my support network, my friend network today. And if I really think back to, well, how did I meet that person? It had to do with the candles. So much of that today, that's where it came from.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I love that part of it. That was the unexpected surprise out of the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's neat. And by putting yourself out there.
Yes.
So, and it's funny, I feel like you were probably meant to be, to give it to friends, to have them maybe give you a little lift and, a little support, a little encouragement. You probably needed that along the way, but it is just taking off, and it's so exciting to see.
Yeah, it's been so much fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what would you say has been difficult about this whole process, or do you call it still a side hustle? It's a side hustle right now.
I mean, technically it's still kind of side hustle, although the scale seems to be tipping on that a little bit. But what's been difficult? So probably two things come to mind off the top of my head. One has been deciding, I think, really, am I a side hustle or am I a business, right? Is this a hobby or is this a business? And in reality, I've kind of straddled that fence for a number of years. And that has some complexities that come with it, because when you haven't decided it's fully a business, maybe you don't do some of the things that you probably need to do if you're really a business, which are things that I'm working on this year. So trying to kind of formalize some things that I probably should have thought about early on if I had meant to start a business. So I think that there's that. But I think the other thing that, and is probably a byproduct of that, has been distribution. And because we weren't ready to just totally put both feet in the camp of, yes, we're a business and we're going to treat this fully like a business, I didn't do things like create a website or figure out, a permanent location. And so just distribution has been a challenge. But I think because we were straddling the hobby, So those I think have been the things that have been challenging up to now, that we've really had some hard talks this year, trying to make some decisions about, are we leaving this a side hustle? Is this really going to be a hobby that we ebb and flow with times, or are we putting both feet in the camp of, no, we're a business and we're going to solve those problems? So,
Okay. I will say, I hope, if I can just encourage you, I hope that you put both feet in. I think you're almost there.
I think we are. I think there's some exciting things probably on the horizon that we've just decided it's time to dive in and do, and just solve those problems, right? Yeah.
Yep. I absolutely am there with you, and I feel like you only live once.
I think you're right about that. And, I think surrounding yourself with people who have dove in on their own passions and dreams helps with that encouragement. I definitely have some people here in town who encourage me in that way and constantly remind me, hey, Laura, not everybody has a vision for something like you have, or not everybody has this creative inspiration. And the fact that you have one means you should chase it. You have this idea and you have this vision for a reason. Go chase it, And I think I finally convinced myself to give myself permission to actually do that. So
good.
Yeah.
When you're stepping out in fear, it's hard. And especially when you're kind of on your own doing it. I mean, I know your husband's helping you, but, and you're kind of forging that path on your own. But I mean, it's, I think, incredibly beneficial to just go for it and do it. Yeah. And I can see how it lights you up, how excited you are about it. I've had the candles. They're absolutely amazing. You have a great product. And so I can't wait to see where you go from here.
Me too. Although I think I know where that's headed. So,
I do. I do too. I hope so. Yeah. So in wrapping up, my theme for this year is grow more in 2024. And either personally or professionally, one way you have grown.
About 10 years ago, I stopped doing New Year's resolutions and I started doing a word for the year. And my word for 2024 is gratitude. And that's been my word before. This is the first word I've ever double dipped on. It's been my word before, but the latter part of 2023 came with a lot of personal and professional kind of roller coasters. And I think sometimes when you're not having the best year of your life, it's easy to slip into a pattern, or at least it is for me, to slip into a pattern of forgetting how many things there are to be grateful for in the midst of what might be an otherwise difficult year. And I chose gratitude as my word for 2024 so that I would be more intentional and mindful about it, because I felt that practice slipping a little bit in the midst of what had been a really difficult year. And it's just amazing how the things you think about each day reflect how your day goes. And it's not a new lesson to me, but it's one I've been really mindful and intentional about reminding myself of this year. And so that really has been my focus each morning, right? 3 things you're grateful for today. There's so much. I mean, if it's hard to come up with 3, then it really should be my word, right? Because there really is so much to be grateful for. And so that's been my focus in terms of personal development in my personal life and in my professional life is to focus on the parts of that there are to be grateful for in the midst of, again, what's been kind of a trying year personally with some family situations and in my day job life, where the industry that I'm in has been a little topsy-turvy this year. So that's been the focus right there. Gratitude.
I love that. And that's good to give people an idea of, I do some New Year's resolutions and I do a board and I do all that, but I love having a word. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I love the word. It gives me something to focus on that year.
Yeah.
I like that more than the resolution, which, I don't know, this can slip away after January.
Oh, no. Yeah.
But the word to kind of dwell on and try to internalize. But that's been it this year, gratitude.
Yeah. That's cool. Oh, I love that. Well, I am so grateful that you have taken the time to talk to me today. This has just been a great conversation, and I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Nancy.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I appreciate you being here. And don't forget to connect with me on social media. Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn are at Sharing Passion and Purpose, and Twitter is at Passion Sharing. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.